Welcome to Devil's Advocate. I'm Mike Krause from CompleteColorado.com. Your usual host, John Caldera, is actually doing cheer dad duty at a cheer competition. So yes, he's carrying around pom-poms and some makeup kits. Think about that for a minute. A little bit later in this show, we're going to talk about undoing the federal-state conflict over marijuana. But first, we're going to talk about repealing the national popular vote with a couple of proponents of the repeal measure. Rose Pugliese, Mesa County Commissioner. How are you, Rose?
I'm great. Thanks, Mike, for having us.
Good. Thanks for coming down from the Western Slope. Don Wilson, Mayor of Monument, Colorado, other proponent on the measure, right?
Yes.
All right.
Thanks for having us.
So before we get started, Western Slope, Front Range. The two of you might as well, you're from the same state, but you might as well be representing different states. How did the two of you come together to become proponents to try and undo this piece of legislation that was passed that we're going to talk about in a minute? How did that happen? Well, go ahead, Don. Take it away.
Well, through mutual friends, there was a lot of conversation about this particular bill. And one thing we wanted to do is represent the entire state. So both of us had our choice of local officials or anybody that would support us in this effort, but me and Rose decided, hey, let's represent the entire state and let's me and you do it. So Rose called me up and said, hey, we're doing this.
All right, let's talk about this. The two of you are going to try and put a measure on the ballot to repeal the national popular vote that was just passed this legislative session. All right, so what we're talking about here, and let me encapsulate. You tell me what I get wrong here. So the legislature passes this national popular vote compact, and it joins Colorado onto a compact, and if enough electoral college votes join this compact, then whoever wins the national popular vote will get enough electoral college votes to win the presidency. That's the gist of it, right?
That's correct.
Right? What that basically means is that big population centers on the East Coast, on the West Coast, will essentially decide who the president is, and Colorado's votes, from my perspective, will become irrelevant. In fact, at Complete Colorado, we've done a lot of work on what a bad idea this is. But go ahead and tell us why you dislike this so much, Rose.
You know, it's interesting that, the reason Don and I got involved in this is because people were stopping us on Main Street. For me in Grand Junction, I was walking to a lunch and people were stopping me to talk about this bill as it was going through the legislature because they were so horrified that our electoral college votes would be given away to places like New York and California to make the decisions on the president for us. And they had a real problem with that. And so that's why we got engaged in this issue. Our constituents are the ones who really pushed it. And we think it's really important that all of Colorado have a voice and that it wasn't the legislature's electoral college votes to give away. It wasn't the governor's electoral college votes to give away. It was my vote, it's Don's vote, it's your vote, it's the people's vote. And we should have a chance to voice our opinion as to whether it's a good idea for Colorado.
And the Mesa County Commission actually formally voted to support this repeal and to support this idea. You all did a resolution, right?
We did, and there are counties throughout the state that are doing resolutions because they feel that strongly on behalf of their constituents that they need to take a stand.
Gotcha. Don, tell me, what do you dislike about this? Why are you doing this?
The national popular vote has so many holes in it. It disenfranchises Colorado. The Electoral College keeps in place, keeps us from having other states govern us. It keeps us away from mob rule. The Electoral College does all that stuff for us, and if you take that away, then you're going to have more voter fraud, more ridiculous voter registration laws in different states. The one thing the national popular vote does is keep states' laws intact as their own law. And you can see that there will be plenty of states changing their laws to equal more votes. And it ends up disenfranchising the smaller states, even up to a mid-sized state like Colorado.
You just brought up something really interesting. You said it would incentivize states to change their laws for voting, and because of the compact requires that we honor that if a Secretary of State in another state certifies an election, we have to honor those results as part of this national popular vote, even if we know even if it's obvious that there was some kind of monkey business going on inside that vote. We're obligated.
Yes.
Right?
It can be clear as day that there was some voting issues in that state, but our Secretary of State has to say, okay, you said this many voted for that person, so we're going with that person.
Amazing. All right, so this actually passed no Republican support whatsoever. Right. In fact, there were Democrats who voted against this.
Absolutely.
So there was bipartisan opposition to this bill. And are you finding bipartisan support for the repeal effort, for what y'all are doing?
We absolutely are. So after the governor signed the bill into law, we had petition signing events throughout the state. The first one was in Grand Junction. And literally when I pulled up for a 3:30 petition signing, at 3:20, there were lines of people wrapped around. We ran out of petitions in 45 minutes. There were hundreds of people that we turned away. And they're not Republicans or Democrats. They're just people who want to make sure their votes get counted. And all we're doing is giving people the opportunity to vote and say, yes, we want our vote counted in this way. Or, people could vote the other way if they wanted to, but at least it's our choice and we can decide in Colorado. And the interesting thing to me is, this whole premise of the national popular vote. Well, in Colorado, it's a winner-take-all state anyway. So whoever wins the the Colorado popular vote for president, that's who gets our 9 electoral college votes. So why would we want to give that away to other states?
It's a great question because it actually just makes sense if the people should be able to vote if they want to give away their votes or not.
Exactly.
And not just have the legislature decide it. And that's kind of the gist behind what you're doing.
Exactly.
Right? All right, let's talk about this because the referendum process, this is a reserved right in the Constitution for us, for the citizenry, right? But this is no easy task you have taken on. Believe me, because I have been a proponent on ballot measures before.
Sure.
And people who think this is easy, I like to say, have never done it before. So let's talk about this process you have to follow because you're on a timeline to get on the ballot. So explain how it happens. So the bill passes, Governor Polis signs it. How many signatures do you have to collect to get on the ballot first?
So we need just about under 125,000. We're shooting for 200,000 because we all know some of those signatures get thrown out and we want to make sure we can make the ballot. We have until August 1st to get those signatures, and the overwhelming amount of grassroots support has been amazing.
Yeah, normally when like some of the things we do, you go out and you buy signatures because frankly it's very difficult to do. So you hire a signature gathering firm. Very rarely does something come along where there is enough popular support, and I think of things like personhood amendments. Mm-hmm. Those have people, they'll pass around petitions around mega churches, so people go out and do this through volunteer effort. That's not easy to do, but you all are doing that for the majority of your signatures, yes?
Yes, absolutely. We have over 2,000 volunteers that we know of that have signed up through our website. That doesn't count people who say, hey, I have a petition, I'd like to circulate it, and gets it from their friend. And so there are people all over Colorado, and this just isn't in Monument or the Western Slope. I mean, we are seeing people in all parts of the state who are getting active and engaged in this issue, and we're seeing more signatures from grassroots volunteers than we've ever seen in any effort before.
That's really interesting. Okay, so how long do you have to do this?
We have till August 1st, which a wonderful thing about that is it's Colorado's birthday. So we get an opportunity to show that we're putting that on the ballot on Colorado's birthday. So that's when our signatures are due.
Signatures are due on Colorado's birthday.
Correct.
Okay, so what happens is you have to turn in a little bit under 125,000 valid signatures from Colorado voters. Secretary of State will then do a process that takes a look at those signatures, a random sampling, and if they pass random sampling, you're on the ballot, and this will be on the ballot in November 2020, right? Not
yes.
This year, right?
No.
And why is that? Why wouldn't it be on the ballot this year?
It's per the Constitution. We're following, obviously, the Constitution on the referendum process, and so that will require us to put it on a 2020 ballot as opposed to an off-cycle ballot. But that's great for us because, there's still a lot of people who don't really understand the Electoral College. They don't understand how it works. They don't understand how their voices could be taken away by this measure. And so that'll give us a lot of opportunity to educate the public on what this means and why they should be engaged and involved.
I think we talked about this very briefly before the show, that there was some polling done and it was reported on about national popular vote while this was making its way through the legislature. And if you just looked at if you just listened to what was going on in the legislature, you think, man, people really want this thing. But the polling shows that the population is fairly evenly split without an education campaign really even in place. So how are you feeling about 50-50 is actually not a terrible place to start for something that has not even had an education campaign behind it. Although 55-45 would be better.
It would be. But actually, when we did our polling and we kind of at the end did a little education piece and then re-questioned those same individuals, our polling, the people that want to support the Electoral College actually rose. And I want to say it went up by, it went from like 49 to 53 or something. We did get that extra 5 points, just explaining the basics of the Electoral College and what the National Popular Vote does and the issues with the National Popular Vote.
Yeah, it actually, it sounds appealing on its face because people like voting on things. And you say it's a popular vote. Well, the winner of the popular vote in Colorado gets all of our electoral votes.
Exactly.
Why shouldn't whoever wins the national popular vote get all the Electoral College votes? But people forget that this went into the Constitution for a couple of reasons, not to and we've talked about this on this show before, that a lot of this was designed to stop big states from dominating presidential elections, but it also is partially designed to stop small states from engaging in any kind of shenanigans with their own electoral votes. So there's actually very good reasons for this. And this is one of the most heavily debated elements of the Constitution, surprisingly enough, that the founders really, really talked about this for a long time. And they did this very specifically because the presidency is unique in that you're supposed to represent the entire country.
Right.
And one of the big reasons for having electoral college is to make sure we don't end up with just a purely regionally popular president. Do people respond well to that?
Absolutely. And I think too, you know, a lot of people in the rural area already feel like their voices aren't heard, especially in bigger, larger cities like Denver. And so I think that's why you see a lot of the legislators who were Democrats who voted against it. They're all from rural communities. And I think that that's really important. Even organizations that are bipartisan, like Club 20, are against the national popular vote because they want to make sure rural voices are protected. And that's what the founding fathers wanted to make sure of, that we weren't dominated by larger populations.
All right, so a lot of people are involved in this. You got volunteers out doing this. If people want to know more about this, if they want to, I mean, if someone wanted to carry a petition, if someone wants to sign a petition, where do they go? How do we figure this out?
They go to coloradonsvote.org. There they can look up events. Every once in a while I get a random email saying, hey, where do I go to sign? I direct them to that. We have a list of events that's updated weekly. They can also volunteer to carry a petition. They can also volunteer to host an event. It's all right there. We even have several 5- and 6-day-a-week locations that you can go sign during the regular working hours.
My understanding, it's been a long time since someone's tried a referendum repeal.
1930s, right?
1930 since someone has done that.
1932.
That's fantastic because I think this is one of the underappreciated things that we have a reserved right for as citizens that make us the legislature as voters, and it's pretty exciting. And thanks for coming on and talking about it, and I wish you the best. And again, that's coloradonsvote.org.
Correct.
Rose from the Western Slope, Dawn from right here in the Front Range, thanks for coming on, and we will see you at the ballot.
Sounds great. Thank you.
you.
All right, you bet.